Somebody asked me how many games do I have. I don't actually know the answer to that question, but we can kind of take an educated guess based upon the amount of games that fit on a shelf and how many shelves there are. Let's have a look. So when full, each one of these shelves will fit 50. So we've got 50, 100, 150. And then what? Maybe, I don't know, 35 on the bottom one. And then obviously we've got 9 and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plus the 4 on the top because, video purposes. But if for now we just do complete shelves, there's Captain America there from when I played that last. But then if we come across to this one over here, then there's a decent chunk at the top, but then 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300. I've lost count. 50. I need to look through my eyes, not my camera. Hang on. 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, 300, 350, 400. And then there's the 450, 550. I reckon I've got over 500 games just straight up filling the shelves. And then if you account for the stuff on the top, and then the stuff that's displayed around, and even stuff that isn't necessarily on display, because there is stuff like that you guys don't even know about because it's just not even worth showing. Combined with the fact that I do own a shed ton of stuff digitally as well, if we're counting those, but do we count those? I would say minimum 500, probably about 600 in total in reality. Less than you'd think. I actually own way more DVDs and films than I do anything else, because both of these are completely full. Like, if I actually look at these, there's so much more here than you think, because some stuff takes up like no space whatsoever. So for example, just right here, we've got the Fast and Furious collection, which I think is up to 1 through 5. Yeah, 1 to 5. So that's 5 films right there. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 films there. That's 3 films there. So like, I've when I used to collect DVDs exclusively rather than just specifically going after games like I do now, I remember that I took stock and I had well over 1,000 films. I used to have a spreadsheet that tracked films because it was way harder to keep track of what films I did and didn't have than it was games, just because it was like one of the summers a few years ago, me and a pal, we would travel around to random CEXs, and I was coming home with bags full of stuff because it was when CEX would sell DVDs for like 50p, or at least the majority of them were like 50p. So it was so hard to keep track of. But then, yeah, I've got some box sets that I'm pretty proud of too, pretty happy about, like the Digimon stuff, the old X-Men stuff, the old Dungeons and Dragons stuff. What a tragedy that nobody ever knows about that Dungeons and Dragons show, by the way. So yeah, to answer the question as to how many games I've got, I would say about 600. Also, let's talk about the cinema for a moment. It's been a few hours since that last clip. I just got home from Odeon and I've just seen Spider-Man No Way Home More Fun Stuff Edition, which the amount of anniversary showings this year at Odeon has been crazy. I've logged into my Odeon and I want to take a look at just how many there have been recently and like in the future. So for example, the next thing that I'm going to see at the cinema on the 2nd of October, so I think in a week, is Shaun of the Dead. And then on the 14th of October, we got Gladiator. And then on the 28th of October, we've got Nightmare on Elm Street. So that's 3 more anniversary showings. Today was an anniversary showing for Spider-Man. And then Sunday just gone, we did Interstellar. Like, the amount of these there has been at this point, it's crazy. And it's kind of hard to keep track of all of them because some of them have been physical tickets, some of them are partnered books, so they're not all showing on my phone. But if we just go through some more, we had Amazing Spider-Man on the 28th. We had... I'm not including like new stuff here because if we count new stuff, we're here all day. Really? The app is getting so bad for this. Like trying to look back at things I've seen. It's only going up to June. That's annoying. But like every single Spider-Man film has been back in cinemas. All the Batman films, literally all of them, except for the very first Keaton Batman, I'm pretty sure has been in the cinema. A couple of the Lord of the Rings films. A couple of the Harry Potter films. What else? There's just been so many. Back to the Future is showing again. Carrie is showing again. Terminator was showing again. I'm pretty sure The Matrix was showing again. Like, the amount of these anniversary showings at this point. I think I've seen Terminator 2 in the cinema maybe 3 times in the last 5 years, which is kind of crazy. Like, Odeon, if you're somebody that likes not just new films, but old films, is a pretty good choice. Because especially this year, there have been extensive lists of films that, like, I would have been too young to have seen in the cinema or like were really nostalgic to me. So for example, Spider-Man 3 in 2007, I remember I went the first week that it released with my nan, which is now, 2007 is 17 years ago. And then I saw it again the other day, which is obviously bringing back good nostalgic memories, because, yeah. Someone on TikTok was like, you should be sponsored by Odeon. And the very bitter soul in me wants to say, no, they only sponsor makeup girls and bakers. Because they definitely do sponsorships. They definitely do. But I've never seen them actually sponsor somebody that, talks about films ever. On the topic of films, whenever I do show my film collection, some people are like, you need to upgrade them to Blu-rays and such because of my OLED TV. And you're not wrong. The only problem with that is the expense that would come with, and potentially the fact that it wouldn't look as nice. Like, I do have a few Blu-rays mixed in here. Look, if you look closely, I have the things that matter the most on Blu-ray. Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, some of the TV shows. It's one of them where realistically the DVDs don't get used too often. The DVDs are often used as like a last resort for when streaming doesn't have it, because we do also have all of the streaming services, like, you know what I mean. There are 1,000,001 streaming services. We tend to only ever have to break out the DVDs as a last resort for when things are not there. Or, for example, if there's a film coming out that we want to see in the cinema that's like a legacy sequel to something we haven't already seen, we'll then go and watch it on DVD if we have to. But generally, the majority of stuff that we do watch is on streaming, and therefore, I also just like owning these. DVDs are fun. While DVDs obviously don't look as good as other stuff does, it's one of them where I feel like 10 seconds into watching it, you don't even notice it. Like, something I'm considering buying on eBay right now because I've been on a nostalgic kick recently is Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island VHS, the VHS version, because it's what I would have had as a kid before my dad decided cartoons were for kids when I was like 7 years old and threw out every single one that I had, along with snapping a shed load of PS1 games I distinctly remember. But, rational thoughts aside, yeah. Cool stuff. One last thing before I go. Do you know what else is really starting to, get on my nerves? Is there's a fair few games that I've discovered have physical releases, just not in England. But the consoles are not region locked, so it kind of doesn't matter. So I go on eBay, I search for the listing, and they're so expensive, and I'm concerned about the import fees, because I've now imported a game twice, and the import fees were pretty crazy, so I don't really want to do that again. So the two games that I'm specifically looking at is the Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection, for preferably the PlayStation 4, although the Switch seems more common. That looks to be about £70, because the Mega Man Battle Network games are some of my favourite games ever. And then after that, we've got the Devil May Cry collection for the Switch, because Devil May Cry 3 seems superior in every way, apparently, on the Switch. However, apparently the way that actually released is only on the cartridge is DMC1, which is exactly the same as the other HD collection versions of DMC1, and DMC2 and 3 come as a digital download code that has eventually expired. So literally every listing of that game says DMC2 and 3 expired, because you probably just can't get them anymore. So I don't think I can get that physically. The only way I could probably do it is if I bought it physically, accepted the code being expired, and then probably downloaded it off the Switch store or whatever the equivalent would be, because I'm sure it's probably still available there in some way somehow. But I don't know. It's kind of annoying, because I just wish I could buy these games. Like, why do they do this? Just release games everywhere, please. It'd make my life way easier.